गिरीश जी नमस्कार। एक बार फिर स्वागत है आपका मेरे चैनल पे। और आज बात करेंगे रुपी डॉलर एक्सचेंज रेट की, वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी की, डॉलर की, यूरो की, युआन की। कौन सी करेंसी है, क्यों इतनी इम्पोर्टेंट है, डॉलर सबसे ज़्यादा पावरफुल क्यों है। और अभी इंडिया ने जैसे शुरू किया अपना रुपी में भी कुछ ट्रेड शुरू कर रहा है इंडिया। तो इन सब चीज़ों के इम्प्लीकेशंस क्या है, लेकिन सबसे पहले डॉलर ग्लोबल करेंसी कैसे बना, इसकी थोड़ी सी बैकग्राउंड के साथ अगर आप हमारे दर्शकों को बताएं तो बहुत ही अच्छा रहेगा। सो ओवर टू यू।
Thank you, Virendra. Actually, the word currency is basically a Latin word, means run, flow, curer से बना है. And just to keep our topic very relevant and simple, as you rightly said, कि why US dollar is the most relevant currency, world reserve currency as of now. So then first we have to understand what is an ideal currency or ideal currency should be, because then only we can understand with respect to that where does all existing currency stands. So what are the basic requirements? So there are basic 8 requirement of a ideal reserve, ideal currency, let's say. First is general acceptance, as we all know that it should be easily acceptable without any question whenever we are exchanging, putting our money for goods and service. I think thing is portability, that it can be transferred from one place to other, from one pocket to other, or from one region to other region. So it should be easily portable. And third is indestructible or durability. Means the currency, whatever we are using, we should be durable. It should not last for a few seconds or few minutes or things which can be hacked or go here and there and other thing. It should be durable. It should not be perishable. Earlier in the ancient time, animals and other things were also used as a currency, but their life, their perishable and nature, means whether it is food item and other thing, that's why it is durable. Then homogeneity, means it should be having the same value when in all its life. It should not be different in the during period.
ओके।
Another point is divisibility, means it should be divisible. It should not be just one unit and then we cannot make it into a smaller or bigger things, or we can make it bigger, but it should be divisible. It should not be like, okay, we can't go beyond a small point, 1 cent or $1 or $100. So it is divisible. We can know it is the value. Then it should be malleability, even to convenient for any given shape. It should not happen that we can't change its shape, or with something like there are certain things art like arts, which is we can't. It's a like piece of painting. It's a valuable things, but you can't replicate it. You can't produce it, so it is not coming into that category. Similarly, it should be cognizability, easy to recognize, easy to understand and distinguish from others. And then it should also have a stable of the value, means it should not change value very often, like what we are finding sometimes some currency like Sri Lankan currency or uh, South American, some of the currencies which devalued so fast that when you go in the morning and the evening, their values are so different that it is difficult. So these are the basic 8 requirements. And now, as you rightly said, how the things world or US dollar becomes so powerful. So there is a history. It all started with a war, as you will be very happy to know because you are from that background. During World War One, if you remember, US was not a direct party to war, but it was happening in the many countries in the Europe. At that time, pound, British pound was the basically de facto world reserve currency, which is because they are having the countries under their control or influence all over the world. And British pound was the considered to be at the time unofficial, because there was no some official number given as a world reserve currency. But and all this currency at that time, I'm talking of World War time, they all were linked to the gold, because the currency has come into existence in print since 17th, 18th century. But how to recognize, how to see that its value is really what you are asking or what you are assuming or somebody is taking. So they all were linked to the gold. and all world leading currencies were linked to the gold. But during World War One, Europe or nations, they were needing supplies, defense items, and other things, and US was one of the biggest suppliers. So all these countries were buying items from US, and they were giving them as a gold for their purchase of their item. So during that period, Europe was sending their gold, and US was getting the maximum gold from all over the world, and slowly it started becoming the world largest reserve for the gold in
तो
the
गिरीश जी एक बात बताइए, इसका मतलब किसी भी कंट्री की इकोनॉमी कितनी स्ट्रांग है ये इस बात पे डिपेंड करता है कि उसके पास गोल्ड का रिजर्व कितना है। और अगर स्ट्रेंथ की बात करें कंट्री की, तो उसमें इकोनॉमिक और मिलिट्री स्ट्रेंथ जो है वो दोनों एक साथ आ जाती हैं। आई टेक इट दैट वे, क्योंकि फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर के टाइम पे ब्रिटेन सबसे स्ट्रांग हुआ करता था, और सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर के बाद फिर यूएसए सबसे ज़्यादा स्ट्रांग बन गया। एंड दैट इज़ द टाइम एक्चुअली जब डॉलर इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ। तो काफ़ी हद तक ये एक तरीके से आपकी करेंसी कितनी स्ट्रांग है, कितने लोग, कितनी उसकी एक्सेप्टेंस है वर्ल्ड में, ये इस बात पे डिपेंड करता है कि इकोनॉमिक पावर कितनी है, और मिलिट्री पावर से उसका एक डायरेक्ट कोरिलेशन है। इज दैट सो?
आपका एक्चुअली जो क्वेश्चन है उसमें आंसर काफी हद तक छुपा हुआ है।
जी।
इफ यू लुक एट दैट, कोई भी करेंसी या आज के समय में बेसिकली पहले क्या था कि पूरी मिलिट्री पावर वाज द बेयर force which was used as a controlling the region and other things. I'm not, if you go into the medieval period or 1,000 years back and stuff, so this is the power, army power or defense power or military power, whatever you call it, and people were ruling and they were considered to be Sikandar or whatever we call them, the ruler, world ruler and other things. But later on, things have slightly mixed. Economy and world power become more or less together, coming together in that power. So if you see from the situation from World War I to World War II, US was always powerful. Even during World War I also, he was powerful than many of the European countries. But they were not ruling so many countries like European countries were ruling, like France or Italy or Britain or Spain. They were ruling all over the world. Many small or big countries like India was also under the rule of Britain and other thing. So these were that's why they were powerful, because they are ruling. But US was militarily was powerful even during World War I time. But since war was happening in Europe, so they were having the advantage. They were not losing the correct, well, their expenses were not like what was happening in the European countries. So that's why they were losing gold and US was gaining it. And by the time of World War II, when we came into 1944 or before that, US was not part of the World War II. They were only supplying defense item and services to the European Union, or today Union, what we call it, but European countries, basically allies. And that has resulted into, again, loss of the Britain's power, both militarily as well as economically. Till then, British power or Britain was considered to be, most powerful country where their sun doesn't set, and from this end to that end, always influence of Britain was there. And during World War I, when all this thing was happening, many of the countries, they have delinked their currency from the gold. Okay. Leading developed countries. Okay. Only US and few countries, and Britain was still maintaining their, currency with a link to the gold.
Gold, okay.
But during 1931 and other thing, Britain also found it very difficult to continue that because of their expense and other thing, to delink their pound with the gold. But US was still continuing. So at 1944, let's say World War II, by the time US was having biggest gold reserve, and all these developed countries or allies was finding it difficult to maintain their currency. So they had requested for how to manage their currency and economy, because they are fighting at the same time. They were finding is very difficult. Inflation and other thing was so high, and the currency was so difficult to maintain. So US was requested to find a way, and 1944 there was a Bretton Woods agreement happened, which is a very famous agreement at a place in North Hemisphere,
Yes.
and where it was agreed, okay, we should devise a system where all countries should have a uniform policy in a way that they should not lose their currency's importance, but at the same time there should be stability.
Okay.
And it happens with US means at that time everybody accepted US as a numero uno, means number one as a military power, because by that time we know what has happened in Japan and World War II, and militarily everybody accepted US as a leader, and financially they were also the largest economy at that time, and also having the largest gold reserve. So it was agreed that, okay, US will maintain the economy, and all other 44 countries, those were part of that agreement, they agreed that, okay, they will link their currency to the dollar. Now, how the things change from gold to dollar? This is officially happened in 1944 after Bretton Woods Agreement.
Yes.
And things started in that direction. The stability reached at these places, and US was maintaining, and this agreement gave them an confidence to the world that since US dollar is linked to the gold, so indirectly their money is also linked to the dollar, and so in another indirect way, their currency is also stable with the dollar.
Okay.
Now again, as I said, war plays a very important role. World War I, World War II, and then comes the Vietnam War. Now, World War I and World War II, US was not so much directly involved, but in the Vietnam War, US was directly involved in a war. And they were also facing the heat like what Russia is facing today, or Ukraine is facing, or any other such country is facing whenever they are directly in the war. Their requirement was so high that, and considering those situations, it was not for a few months, it was for a longer duration. Vietnam War was for a few years. It was not just, few days war here and there. So all these leading developing countries or developed countries, those who are having a link with the US dollar, they started demanding gold in lieu of the US dollar, which they were keeping it. And it was difficult for US to reimburse all that amount of gold against US dollar. So President Nixon delinked dollar from the gold. So all those things, if you look, though it is economy, but war is also having some role into their play. So that was the reason. And today, as of now, 59% of the world reserve of all these major countries, I'm telling worldwide, other than US, 59% of the reserve is in the dollar terms. So it is still one of the strongest reserve. Any foreign countries are keeping it as a reserve for them.
अभी क्या होने जा रहा है गिरीश जी, ये बताइए आप। अभी जो यूक्रेन का वॉर चल रहा है, अब इसमें जो कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी है वो अच्छी खासी हो रही है, आपको भी पता है। यूरो डेप्रिशिएट हो रहा है, बाकी सारी करेंसी डेप्रिशिएट हो रही है, और डॉलर स्ट्रांग होता जा रहा है। और आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा कि जब लड़ाई होती है और जब मेजर वॉर्स होते हैं तो सबकी करेंसी हिलती है। अमेरिका के साथ सबसे बड़ा एडवांटेज ये रहा कि कभी उसकी ज़मीन पे अटैक नहीं हुआ, एक्सेप्ट पर्ल हार्बर जहाँ से एक बार को शुरुआत हुई। बाकी यूरोप वाले लड़ते रहे, एशिया वाले लड़ते रहे, दैट मेक्स नो डिफरेंस। यूएसए साइड लेता रहा, हथियार बेचता रहा, और जब हथियार बेचेगा तो नेचुरली उसका तो एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ेगा। तो वही हालत अभी होने वाली है, क्योंकि मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि यूरोप से जितना भी उनके पास करेंसी के जितने उनके भंडार हैं, यूरो तो अच्छा खासा स्ट्रॉन्ग हुआ करता था, अब सब वो हथियार खरीदेंगे, इंक्लूडिंग जर्मनी, फ्रांस, ब्रिटेन, सब हथियार खरीदेंगे, और काफ़ी कुछ यूक्रेन को भी देंगे। तो एक्चुअली यूएसए तो अपनी जेब से कुछ नहीं दे रहा है रसिया को लड़ने के लिए, यूएसए तो यूरोप से ले रहा है, और उधर अगर उसमें से कुछ हाफ या कुछ जो है वो यूक्रेन को दे रहा है कि तुम इसके साथ लड़ते रहो और उसको मिलिट्री डिग्रेडेशन करते रहो और डेप्रिशिएट करते रहो। तो ये तो खैर यूएसए की पॉलिसी है, और बड़ा स्मार्ट मैं कहूँगा अगर ग्लोबल स्ट्रेटेजिक मूव के तरीके से आप इसको देखो तो। अब आप देखिए, आफ्टर ऑल यूएसए कितना स्ट्रांग हो सकता है, मीन्स डॉलर कितना स्ट्रांग हो सकता है, और डॉलर के डेप्रिशिएट होने के चांसेस कितने। रीजन रीजन मैं जो बता रहा हूँ आपसे, कि अभी इंडिया भी, चाइना भी, ईरान भी, रसिया भी, ये सब इस तरीके से अपना जो फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम है विदाउट स्विफ्ट चलाएंगे, विदाउट डॉलर चलाएंगे। तो मैं आपसे ये जानना चाह रहा हूँ कि इतनी मेजर पावर्स हैं, आफ्टर ऑल रसिया, इंडिया, चाइना, ईरान, और भी कंट्रीज आ जाएंगी जो डॉलर के बगैर ही अपना इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड चलाने की पॉसिबिलिटी एक्सप्लोर कर रहे हैं या फिर चला रहे हैं। तो उस हालत में डॉलर की वैल्यू कितनी कम या कितनी ज़्यादा होगी?
See, as I said, ideal currency should have a stability and acceptability and exchange. These were the some of the things. Now you said very categorically in your queries that while during this war, one of the immediate decision US took was that keeping ruble out of the SWIFT. Now this hurt the basic fundamental requirement of a world reserve currency. Means it is not acceptable. The moment things become non-acceptable for some reason or other, currency loses its value. You understood my point?
या
That
या
is the reason. That is the reason why people are started looking at alternate system.
यस
So we can say in a short side, okay, US taken a decision. It may be requirement from the immediate point of view, and they might have considered from a strategy point of view, okay, Russia will come to stand still, and the situation will be so tough for Russia not to fight for such long and other things. But that strategy has not turned out to be correct, and it is hurting all apart from those directly who are in conflict of war like Russia and Ukraine, but other people are also facing, as I say, collateral damage. So one of the damage is coming on the part of acceptability and exchange of the US, and the people started looking for an alternate, which if you look from US point of view is not good. Because the moment people started looking for they will lose its influence, because US dollar is not only as a military but as an influence also on the economy of the many other countries. US dollar is having, US
अच्छा,
economy is having.
गिरीश जी, आपने एक बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट बताया, और अब मुझे अभी जैसे आप डिस्कस कर रहे थे तब मुझे ध्यान आया, अगर यूएसए रशिया को स्विफ्ट के अंदर रखता और किसी तरीके से ये इंश्योर कर लेता कि रूबल की जो वैल्यू है विस डॉलर वो डेप्रिसिएट हो अच्छा खासा, तो उसका मतलब ये हुआ कि उस हालत में रशिया की हालत काफ़ी पतली हो जानी थी अगर ये अचीव हो जाता तो।
As you rightly pointed out, as I said, कि strategist ने जो point सोची थी, see,
हाँ
when this war started, many experts, or rather almost all experts were telling that war will hardly last for 10 days, 15 days, and it will not be going beyond 2 weeks or 3 weeks, that kind of a situation. And based on that, US was, and other means, most of the countries were expecting that Russia will also not be in a position to continue war once this kind of a hard sanction will come into play, and they will be finding it difficult to finance their own. But one of the point which they've ignored, that Europe is depending mainly on the energy from the Russia. And in spite of all their best efforts, in spite of all their, taking position against this import, that import, they have not found an alternate to the Russian gas, especially when it comes to the pipeline supply, because pipeline supply is something you can't replace it in few weeks, few months, and other thing. It has to be continue with that. And until unless you are having, so all these countries has no option but to depend on the mercy of Russia. Let's say the word mercy may not be so good, but it is term dictated by Russia, not by these European countries, as far as energy is concerned. He is deciding how much and how he will take. So he has come out of that. So in a first game, we can say the expectation from the Europe and US to cripple the Russia was not successful at this stage. How things turned out in future, that's a different thing. But today, so that's why I said this has also impacted US economy in a way that people started looking for an alternate. I'm seeing it's for a long term. I'm not seeing for a immediately term. Why the moment many countries started looking for it, it will find a way, and then people will look into 1:1 agreement like rupees agreement or Iranian dinar and UAE dinar agreement. So countries to countries, instead of going through dollar, which the normal practice were, now people were looking for. It may be not a huge quantity. Let's say it may be a few $1 billion or maybe $100 billion overall, let's say, happened between Russia and China and other things. Still, it is a start of the point, which is, in my opinion, is not good. So US has to find a way to, things should not go beyond a point, so that people should continue to maintain and respect that US dollar was having prior to this action.
ओके, अभी मैं आपसे एक्चुअली एक चीज जानना चाहूँगा। जितने भी कंट्रीज हैं इंक्लूडिंग चाइना, इंडिया, रशिया तो अभी सिस्टम से बाहर ही हो गया, इनके सबकी जितने भी रिजर्व हैं वो बेसिकली यूएसए में हैं। वहाँ के ट्रेजरी बॉन्ड्स ये खरीदते हैं, और ये आई बिलीव जापान के सबसे ज़्यादा हैं, $1 ट्रिलियन प्लस, और उसके बाद दूसरे नंबर पे चाइना है जो कि अच्छा खासा है। अब चाइना हर बार कहता है कि जो हमारे वहाँ पे रिजर्व है ट्रेजरी बॉन्ड्स की फॉर्म में, उसको मैं कम से कम करूँगा। अब उसमें इसके कुछ प्रोज कॉन्स होंगे, कुछ उसके एडवांटेज डेफिनेटली चाइना को होंगे, नहीं तो वहाँ पे क्यों रखता वो। और अगर चाइना अपने जो रिजर्व हैं वो यूएसए के पास नहीं रखता, अब ये साथ में ये रिलेटेड भी है ट्रेड अकाउंट डेफिसिट से, स्पेशली करंट अकाउंट और कैपिटल दोनों से ही रिलेटेड है कि ट्रेड डेफिसिट चाइना और अमेरिका का कितना है। ऑब्वियसली चाइना के फेवर में होगा। तो एक तरफ तो ये सिचुएशन है और दूसरी तरफ उनका पैसा भी वहीं पे है। और बाई एनी चांस अगर ये इक्वेशन चेंज होती है कि चाइना जो है अपने जो ट्रेजरी बॉन्ड्स हैं उनके नहीं खरीदता या रिजर्व वहाँ पे नहीं रखता, तो उस हालत में डॉलर पे या युआन पे क्या फर्क पड़ने वाला है। हाउ एग्जैक्टली डू यू लुक एट दैट पॉइंट? इज इट रियली कॉम्प्लेक्स इशू?
See, what you're basically asking is, yuan is an alternate to the US dollar as a world reserve currency.
अल्टीमेटली तो वहीं पे आना है ये।
See, ultimately, main game plan China का वही है. We can't say no, it is not in their game plan. Yes, it is, because economically they are the second largest economy as of now, China, after US. And as per the World Bank or IMF report and other thing, in next 20 years or so, they may overtake US, China, in the world economy from point of view, because the market, the population, and the way they are moving, that thing will be not far off. But at the same time, as I said, trust and dependability is also very important for any country. You are having a money. I give you a very simple example. Instead of giving a straight answer, you will say why I'm telling in this particular thing, as you had asked. You are having a money, you want to buy a gold, and you are having a 8 to 10 goldsmith or gold shops near you. Where will you go?
जो डिपेंडेबल होगा।
It comes dependability and trustworthy. Exactly. So as of now, China is lacking that trust and dependability among other countries which are not allies to the China. Leave Pakistan and North Korea and few other such countries, Myanmar. But that is what they are lacking. So until and unless that things change, it will be difficult, even though they are powerful from military point of view. They are economically very strong, the second largest economy, if we count it worldwide, and area of influence and everything is there. But as I said, world reserve currency should, at the beginning I said there are 8 parameters: trust and dependency, which should be easily acceptable and exchangeable. So that is the reason, as of now, yuan is not considered as a free currency. It is controlled by the government. And one can say every country, every government control their currency, but not to that much extent like what China is doing. That's the reason. That's the reason people are having some doubt over it can influence, either devalue so much It will be very difficult if suppose you are linked to the, let's say today's yuan at 6 yuan is equal to 1 rupees and they devalued it another 10%. What will happen to your currency? Because your currency is also getting devalued. So it's a situation where people like to have a stability, transparency, dependency, and trust, which is as of now is not that high compared to euro and dollar.
dollar.
Now comes to the euro point of view. Euro is second largest foreign reserve worldwide after dollar. Means all over the world, euro is kept as a second reserve worldwide next to the dollar. But what is problem is lacking is the like regulation as of now. There's not one country who's controlling euro. There are many countries. See, EU or Euro is the European Union. So there's no central bank, single central bank who controls the euro. There are group of ministers, group of European Union, and who control all those things. That is the reason lacking in the terms of a euro. So till these things are coming out and find a way, which is very difficult because you can't say Germany listen to exactly what France is telling or what France should follow exactly what Germany is telling or Italy or vice versa and other thing. They are having their own policies and we have seen on many times that they take a different stance on many issues worldwide. But common thing is currency. But for that currency, countries' independence, other thing will not be compromised by this European Union. So that is the point lacking in the euro. China, as I already said, dependency trust is lacking as of now. What will happen in future? We don't know. So this is the reason. Immediately, there is no nothing which will replace dollar, but it is a start. And it, as I said, by keeping for some reason or other, keeping some country out of it and other country will start looking at alternate, and that will not be good for the world reserve currency. So in nutshell, these are the basic things. So as a strategy, US should look for, find a alternate other than keeping currency out, find some other means to penalize the country of which they feel it is not correct as per the their standard or world standard, but currency should not be hurt.
ओके गिरीश जी, अब मैं एक तो शॉर्ट टर्म और एक लॉन्ग टर्म के इम्प्लीकेशंस थोड़ा डिस्कस कर लें, स्पेशली यूक्रेन रशिया वॉर के। अभी क्या हो रहा है कि रशिया इन एनी केस इट इज एबल टू मेंटेन इट्स कैश फ्लो। इंडिया, चाइना, ईरान, बाकी और कंट्रीज भी हैं, ट्रेड कर रहे हैं, वो जैसे भी मैनेज कर रहे हैं डिस्काउंटेड रेट पे या वॉट एवर इट इज, बट दे आर एबल टू मैनेज इट। नाउ यू लुक एट इट, ऑल दीज यूरोपियन यूनियन नेशंस, इनको गैस की प्रॉब्लम आएगी दिसंबर तक, तो दे आर गोइंग टू बी प्रॉब्ली दे हैव गॉट द रिजर्व्स अप टू सर्टेन एक्सटेंट अप टू दिसंबर। उसके बाद मार्च तक इनको काफ़ी सीवियर प्रॉब्लम आएगी अगर इनके पास कोई अल्टरनेटिव गैस का नहीं आया। दूसरी बात, दे हैव टू डिपेंड ऑन यूएसए फॉर वेपन सप्लाई, और बाकी चीज़ों के लिए भी, गैस के लिए भी उनको उसी पे डिपेंड करना पड़ेगा। तो स्लोली एंड स्लोली व्हाट आई सी इज कि वहाँ पे इन्फ्लेशन रेट अच्छा खासा बढ़ने वाला है। रेट ऑफ इन्फ्लेशन विल बी वेरी हाई इन यूरोप, यूएसए में भी ये हाई रहेगा, इंडिया समहाउ इज मैनेजिंग, बट उसके बाद भी आप देखो तो डॉलर ठीक ठाक पोजीशन में है, एप्रिशिएट कर रहा है विस ऑल द करेंसीज ऑफ द वर्ल्ड। आपको ऐसा नहीं लगता क्या कि अगर डॉलर एप्रिशिएट करता रहा इसी तरीके से तो इंडिया को क्या क्या प्रोज एंड कॉन्स हो सकते हैं अदर देन ऑयल? ऑयल का तो क्लियर है, अगर डॉलर एप्रिशिएट करेगा तो उस हालत में हमारा ऑयल का बिल बढ़ेगा, हमारा जो ट्रेड डेफिसिट है वो भी बढ़ेगा। इज दैट पॉसिबल कि हम अल्टरनेट सोर्स से, रशिया तो खैर एक है ही जिससे हम बहुत सारा तेल आज की डेट में ले रहे हैं, और कोई अल्टरनेट सोर्स तरीका हो सकता है जिसकी वजह से हमारा ऑयल बिल कंट्रोल में रहे और रेट ऑफ इन्फ्लेशन भी कंट्रोल में रहे और ट्रेड डेफिसिट भी कंट्रोल में रहे?
As of now, for the growth of a country, energy is one of the major requirements. Any country which is growing, we continuously need to have more and more energy. And only then we can grow. Otherwise, we'll be stagnated and then we can't grow. So now question is, what are the source of those energy? As today, we are having a lot of research, with a lot of work is going on alternate energy and everything, but these are not happening in a month or 6 months time. It will be, we're talking of a 5 years, 10 years from right now, things will be so much percentage will come from alternate energy from the other than conventional fossil fuels, which is coal, natural gas, oil and other. So in near term, answer is there's no alternate, but we have to depend on this fuel. Other point which is happening, which is, though it is not in our hand, but at the same time, what is happening is because of this inflation, because of this problem and other thing, all countries are having apprehension or anxiety towards recession. And if that happens, I'm not telling for long period and other thing, this will have impact on the growth of all countries, which in other words will impact the oil export or energy exporting countries, let's say oil and gas, which is being exported, which we have seen in last couple of weeks. Right from 120, people were, experts were talking that oil will touch 150 and $200 in coming weeks if Russia-Ukraine war is not coming under that, or this will not happen. Then US oil will touch 150, $200. There are many experts who are talking, but that's not the case. Now oil is hovering around 105, $106 or around $100 plus minus $5-6 we can say. The reason is again the growth. If countries are facing this problem, there are more than 23 countries, Latin America, Africa, and Asia, which are on the verge of what Sri Lanka is facing the problem. And they are not smaller countries, they are big countries also, like Egypt, like Venezuela, and many other countries. So what will happen if things are, even South Africa is having this problem. I mean, Kenya is having this problem, and India is not, but we can't help everyone, and even though they are our friends and other. But impact is worldwide, and that is the reason energy demand will reduce in other parts. And that indirectly will help India, but that is the only way we can control it. That war in Middle East, anything happens in Middle East will influence or will impact the flow of the oil. Because you say if what is the flow if Iran or UAE or Oman and other thing, all the crude oil which is coming, majority is coming from that area. If anything happens in that part, crude oil will be the worst sufferer, and then immediately, even though it hold for a few days, oil price will be here and there. So then we can manage with all our requirement, and most likely it is the scenario. But controlling expenses, debt, and current account deficit, it is very much necessary. It is necessary for not only central government, but for all the state governments, which we discuss in one of our earlier discussions. We have to see that all our states are maintaining financial discipline so that country can come out of this unprecedented situation after COVID, this kind of a things, and we can move faster, and then growth or the projected growth, which was expecting 6 to 8%, we should maintain and come out better in this.
ओके तो आपका जो भी आज व्यू पॉइंट आया, जो कन्वर्सेशन हुआ, उसमें जो मैंने कंक्लूजन निकाला वो तो सबसे पहले तो ये है कि डॉलर विल बी देयर, इट विल कीप ऑन एप्रिशिएटिंग फॉर द नियर फ्यूचर, एंड इंडिया विल बी इन ए बेटर सिचुएशन vis-a-vis other nations. I am quite optimistic about that, but most important point is that we can achieve the growth provided we keep our non-productive expenditure at bay, and that is possible when there is strict financial discipline. So that is a very, very big lesson for all of us. So thank you so much, Girish ji. It has been a pleasure to interact with you on the topic which you love to discuss and which I love to hear. Thank you for listening to this conversation with Girish ji. Hope you liked it. Please like, share and subscribe. I will see you in next video.